So my name's Alan Curtis, and when the slides come up, we'll see a bit more about my businesses. But I run two software businesses, and I've been self-employed for 7-8 years now, and running my latest business, Hula, for the last 3. And Hula, there's a team of 5 of us. We're in 3 years now, so our product business. We basically are a platform for solicitors to manage their caseload. So a bit like the accountancy software, our last week we do that software for solicitors. But don't worry, I'm not going to be selling you any of my software products, unless any of you are solicitors. But no more, I'm going to be talking about many of the skills to have to get to create a business. And I'll also tell you a little bit about the Startup Weekend Swansea that we run. So you can find me online as well. I do lots of presentations to schools and universities. I was actually at Swansea University just 2 hours ago speaking to some PhD students. Please feel free to ask me questions online afterwards if you want to. I like to start with my motivation. I think this is really important for any entrepreneur or business person to find their motivation. If you're going to run a business just for the money, there are easy ways to die, basically. And I generally do that. And I probably didn't understand that myself until about a year, even not just last year. My parents were in business in the 70s, and they were always very concerned. In the early days, when I started my business, I was very money focused. They said, that's okay. And I started relatively money focused, but they said, if that's all it's ever going to be, they were very concerned because they've been through that process. They knew the challenges and the things you'd have to give up. So you do have to find your passion. And my passion, I think, and my motivation does start back when I was in primary school in the 90s in Swansea. I'm dyslexic, and back in the 90s, many schools in Wales wouldn't accept that dyslexia existed. To the point where one of my teachers, or my parents in said, your son is unteachable, he's too stupid, he'll amount to nothing. I now have a degree in computing for real-time systems, employ 5 people, and turned down investments from James Cardiff. So I think you should be quite ashamed of this. But that's one of my motivations. And I actually think, I'm not surprised that many business people turn out to be dyslexic, because the skills you have to learn in education do help you in business. When you're in education, you can't follow the standard routes, the set paths. You have to find other ways around it. If I'd followed the standard routes of what I was supposed to do, I would have failed and would have gone to university. So I found different, and that skill I find serves me very well in business. Many times my team will come to me and say, we cannot achieve this, or something's in our way. And I'll say, well, why don't we go around it? And sometimes you just have to think of a non-obvious route to get around it. And then the other thing you have to see, have you got what it takes? Because many people will look at you and think, what the hell are you doing? Just like my girlfriend there. I think the best analogy is when you tell maybe you're going to run a half marathon or a marathon. First off, all your friends will say, that's stupid. Well, yeah, okay, you're not going to do it. We don't, good one. Then you start doing some training, and a few people think, okay, maybe he will do it, but you think he's going to, maybe not. What a stupid fool running in the rain. And then you get to the finish line of the race, and everybody's behind you who knew you were going to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's very much, I think, the story of business. When you first say you're going to go into business, everybody says, okay. And you go to the pub with your mates in the first few years and they go, great, when have you made your first million? And that gets quite boring after a while. And then lots of people who work within your career, I had a very successful career as a software developer. I think, what's he doing, knocking about? You could be working in London or doing something or other. And then you suddenly start to make it and everybody said you were going to do it all wrong. So you definitely do have to have some resolve and be quite relentless. And that will help you anyway in sales. As I say, my background is very technical. And for engineers, I think Colin will probably find a lot with the entrepreneurs he works with, especially in the life science, maybe very educational backgrounds. They don't tend to always be the best salesman, but if you are going to be that front man or that front woman, you are going to need to learn to sell. I love to program. I don't get to do any programming anymore. I think that's one thing when you've got to say, have you got what it takes to run a business? You've got to be careful sometimes if you're going to go in that, I'm going to run a pub scenario. Everybody thinks, oh, I'll run a pub, that'd be really fun. I like going to the pub, or I run a club. If you're running a business because you like being a consumer of it, sometimes that's a danger. I love programming. If I started my businesses because I wanted to program all day, I would have failed. Luckily, I also like selling and running my business. So once you've decided you've got what it takes, and you've found out what your motivation is, and what you love doing, I think you do have to get the right team behind you. Clockwork Bear, my first business, was an agency. I ran that myself as a freelancer to begin with. I had a very good work-life balance at some points, and other points I earned lots of very good money. But that was an agency, and nothing wrong with that, but my ambitions was to create a product, be successful in that, be respected within an industry, and at the time it was very motivating to build something to sell it, not so much at the moment because I'm enjoying it too much. But to be able to build a product business, I think you do need a good team. You basically can't sing the theme tune and write the theme tune, basically. You have, once I was doing Talk About, if I was writing or fulfilling a client's brief, I couldn't be out selling. So now, Ed and Tom were my first employees. I only employ people who look younger than me, so it makes it really hard for us to sell to solicitors because they think we don't know what we're doing, and half the time we don't. But anyway, Ed and Tom are very dedicated. They both have a stake in my business, or their business, and we work very hard. And we now are very well known in the industry. Even the Law Society have closed one of their projects, which was competing against us, partly due to what we were doing. So we're very proud about that. I think I had one of my proudest moments in my business just at the end of last year when we ended up going to an event in London, Chelsea Football Club, an industry event, and I would, without sounding too arrogant, but most people at the event knew who we were, and actually we had the first time that someone came up to us waiting to speak to us. Usually when we go to events, we're waiting as someone's speaking to someone to try and network with them, which had someone come to actually do the same to us. So we were quite proud of that, myself and Tom. And then, so you've got the right team, you're going to really have to shout about it. As I said, there's no point, and this is, I think, the danger for all science-based businesses. It doesn't matter if my software's the best or worst, or if my invention is going to be groundbreaking. If I can't sell it, it's dead. The last business I worked for, I wrote software for cluster computers to do their networking equipment. They were the best in the world in the 90s, the fastest networking you could buy. They spent the next decade trying to build the next generation. With one salesman who didn't like selling, they probably were nearly there, but the financial crisis came, they hadn't done any selling, and they went under. So when you come to selling, I think you've got to have your American hat on. We're very reserved sometimes in Wales and in the UK, and there's no room for being reserved when you're selling. You always have to put your best foot forward. As soon as you shut your door in the morning, if you're selling, and even when I joked at the beginning saying I'm not going to sell to you unless there's any solicitors, you've always got to be thinking of novel ways. As I said, I go into universities and colleges and talk about my experiences of growing my business. And I get invited to be on judging panels for their competitions. It amazes me still how many 14 and 15-year-olds still think the solution to selling is Facebook and Twitter. That's just not thinking outside the box. Facebook died a few years ago. You can make some money out of it, but it's pretty pointless these days. Unless you've been banned from things like MailChimp at least twice, and thought of novel ways, interesting ways to sell, you're not going to cut the mustard. We promoted Hula through partnerships with the other big industry players. We've understood their motivation of why they wanted to partner with us. In fact, one of them was through fear for one of their competitors buying one of our competitors. They're now partnering with us without me having to give up too much away. And there's always these interesting ways you can do it. I think the Ultimo Bra, how they promoted theirs, they were very much in the early days of flash mobs, going down to London and doing stunts. You've got to think of new ways. Facebook and Twitter, you might as well be gurus now. And then what support is available? That said, actually I've used Twitter very successfully with Hula. One thing that solicitors are told to do is get a Twitter account, and when you're on Twitter you want to get followers and people to interact with you. No one wants to tweet as a solicitor. But I do, and when I do tweet at them, they get quite excited because someone's interacted with them, and then they reply and I get down. So sometimes you still can use dead mediums to your advantage, but the actual ads are not really together. And then finally, support. I think we're quite lucky in Wales, in South Wales. I grew up here, but I actually had my career in Bristol and started for the first year out. No one in Bristol thinks to go to the government or to find any support. They just get on with it. It's changed in the last few years with co-working spaces and the like, but I never, when I first started my business, thought what grants were there. That said, and I would not turn those opportunities down. There are fantastic things available. I think jobs growth is a scheme that is very useful if you think about employing someone. It basically funds someone minimum wage for the first 6 months. It can be a great, it's very easy access. On top of that, as long as you've got some money to put in as well, they can be reasonable. The danger is not to think of it as a honeypot. With investment can be a really valid route. I'm a big fan of lean startups, of actually trying to meet yourself and try and, I think it's just tight. That's what my friends and my team say. But what it does mean is I have done my business through sales, and that is ultimately the best funding stream possible. And once you've got sales, I've actually turned down, I think I'm on my fourth investment turned down. They're not going to talk. James Kahn, it was a rubbish offer, but his investment firm turned me down. I was looking for partnerships. Basically, in my search for partnerships and sales routes, if you'll build sales, you will find people to invest if you need it. But the biggest support network you can find though is other businessmen and women. I cannot underestimate, I think it was highlighted in the last presentation of the sacrifices and the strains you'll go under in those first few years, especially once you start growing a business with employees like you are. I'm lucky because I can speak to my parents. That's why I give my contact details. I will speak to anybody. To be careful, I've had my fair share of bruises. There are businessmen and women out there who you wouldn't touch with a stick, and they sometimes will smile at you the very first, and sometimes will get into business with them. But if you can find, and usually it's nice to find some people outside of your industry who aren't your competitors, because then they're generally, and networking events like this can be good. Those support networks are useful, and that's, I think, what Colin was highlighting in his presentation, is what angel investors do. Give you that experience. They'll have been there and done it, and there's nothing like that when it's Sunday night and two of your competitors are really going at you very aggressively in the media. You've lost one of your clients through them being bought by someone else, and you're wondering where the next wage bill's going to come. So that, I think the mental support is just as important as either financial or government. But we are very lucky with that. And then, how do you find these people? Very briefly, I help run Startup Weekend. We do it as volunteers. Colin's been so many of them very great support of it. It's not probably too early stages for investment at this stage, but it's basically if you've got a business idea, you want to try it out, you turn up on Friday night. They happen all over the world, London, New York, all over. We do one in Swansea. I'm very keen to do one in Cardiff this year. You basically turn up on Friday night, pitch your idea to a room of other people, helps you build your team. I've been to ones in London and made a lot of money off the back of that, and also met some great connections. You then build that idea over the 2 days, and people like mentors like Colin and other people like the Accelerated Growth Program, which is another great scheme that you've watched government run, which my business is on, will help you refine your idea. And on Sunday, you'll have potentially a working prototype of your product, or at least a good idea of what the business model is. And statistically, about 20% of businesses can start at weekends, so 3,000 that happen locally, still running 12 months on. Over the 3 years we've run it, and each year we have about 10 teams, and 4 of them usually go on to at least have a go. And even ones from our first year are still trading today. And actually the winners in my school from the first year are starting to get their first customers. So it's a long, hard road. It's been 3 years for them, but that's my whistle-stop tour. I do like to ramble. This is how fast my brain goes. This is probably how fast I speak. And that's why sometimes a lot of business kind of like that. That's why one last thing about teams. At the end of last year, I was doing a presentation to some school children, and one of them asked me, how do you make sure you know more than everybody else in your team? So I hope I'm the most stupid person in my company. I don't want to be in any room where I'm the most the cleverest person, because I'm teaching and not learning. Everybody in my business knows more than me. I will sit down and I will work out, do everything to a certain degree that they can do, and I understand their role, and I can empathise with it, but I don't want to employ people who I know more than. And especially for engineers and scientists, I think that can be an important thing to learn. Employ people who are better than you, don't be fast. Happy to take any questions.
How did you fund your first few employees?
Well, yeah, so Ed was funded to begin with Jobs Growth for the first 6 months. I was very fortunate. I was a software developer. As you may know, we are very expensive people. So I did earn good money before I started my business, and before the financial crash, I did make some relatively good money out of property development, but I know it helps anybody afford the property crash to build a house and make money. I was just lucky. So I used my savings, basically, and Clockwork Bear still partly funds we do client work, usually 2 projects a year, and the rest for Hula now we've got over 1,500 users. So,
Is there going to be another Swansea startup weekend?
we run it every year, and actually, as I kind of alluded to, I haven't really said I'm doing, but I'm quite keen to do a Cardiff one. I just think they're fun. There are a lot of hard work. The last one, and then the next day I went and did a 2-week tour around the country for my own business. So, but yeah, they happen every year in November.
Sorry, you just mentioned earlier on that your motivation comes from your sort of early days in school, but also you link that you as a family are entrepreneurs. So now I'm trying to really find out
It's the nature
through
of
that
nature.
what you really, what drives you, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's really, I find it quite interesting because my sister isn't entrepreneurial. She works for the big oil and gas companies, and she's a materials engineer. She has business ideas, and she is fully capable of running a business, but she likes her career. She's very career focused, and I can't see her starting a business anytime soon. My parents were a big inspiration to me. That said, they've always said they would have been happy if I was a dustman, not for anything I wanted to be. They put no pressure on me to go any different route. In fact, they probably would have discouraged me, as I said. They were very worried in the early days about how money focused I was, because they knew to go through and the likelihood that 1 in 10 successes is probably not the easiest way, especially for a software developer to make money. I think it was really competitive, and I do like the opportunities that running my own business produces. I mean, I can go wherever I want. Just exciting. Life is very short, I think, and I'm enjoying it.
Who do you take inspiration from? Who's your sort of role model out there?
That's a difficult question. There's lots of famous role models you could suggest, and I think of all the famous ones, I'm quite, I think what Elon Musk has done with PayPal, he's a very inspirational. But if you look into his life, he's had to give up a lot for that. And
When he had to borrow money from his friends.
exactly, yeah. And even